Introduction to Magic Secrets in the Dark. A sorcerer hidden in society is caught up in a massive plan by a mysterious organization to change the world. How can he face this huge conspiracy? However, behind these organizations is a group that controls them, and the group's goal is to erase the secrets that make all mysterious side creatures hidden in society unable to stand among ordinary people. But if success would make the current civilization disappear, how should he face it? Hidden in the world. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jianyu City is an ordinary city, where there is a stationery store next to a school. The owner of this stationery store is a young man who has just finished his studies. If anyone sees him, they may not pay attention to him at all. He has no special features, ordinary appearance, ordinary education, and ordinary personality. He doesn't usually talk to people around him, and often opens the store later than usual during school holidays. And in daily life, it's almost normal day after day. At noon, I often have a homemade meal with only one dish and a bowl of rice. His parents recently passed away. 3 years ago, his father passed away, and a month ago, his mother also passed away. His parents left him with this stationery store, as well as a house he lived in and a house in the countryside. The most important thing for him should be the talisman around his neck. The most curious thing about him is that his parents passed away in his 80s, but he was only 21 years old. Some nearby residents thought he wasn't as young as he looked, but his birth date on his ID card was 21 years ago. Every time he hears these words, he just thinks that if he hadn't had those experiences, he would have been much bigger on the surface than he is now. Boss Lee, how can I buy this automatic pen? A student on his way to school asked the owner of this shop. That 1 yuan, said the shop owner Yuanli. Next time I'll add some price tags in the store, said Yuanli to herself as she finished her busy morning at school and drank water from her chair. Tomorrow is a day off and it's time to go to the houses in the village to see how they look. Thinking of these Yuanli faces, a hint of joy appeared on their faces. After finishing a day of business, Yuanli returned to his residence in the city. After returning to his residence, he took off his amulet. The ordinary appearance of Yuanli has changed to a completely different appearance from before. Yuanli looked in the mirror and thought to herself, last time I was treated like a girl when I went out, did I look like a girl that much? Last time I left my talisman at home, but it was captured by a roadside blogger and mistaken for a girl. At that time, she was referred to online as a beautiful girl or a fake woman at least 1.8 meters tall, which he didn't want to see. Yuanli looked at her talisman, realizing that her aging was only 1/20th that of an ordinary person after the age of 18, and her strength was much stronger than that of an ordinary person. If it weren't for the talisman hiding these things, she wouldn't be able to integrate into society. In one's own family, parents age just like ordinary people, while oneself is much slower than ordinary people. Tomorrow I will go back and see if the magical metals I have created have grown like my imagination, thought Yuanli. As a sorcerer hidden in society, possessing powers that normal people do not possess. In the process of practicing spells, I gained the ability to lift a 6-ton truck even without using spells to enhance my body. After using my spiritual power to enhance it, it will increase several times to over 100 tons. If I use spells, it can be further enhanced. Always hiding one's identity among normal people is something that Yuanli has always adhered to, unlike ordinary people. Every time I teleport back, it's all for my research results, Yuanli thought as she held her research materials. Research results. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon reaching her house in the countryside through teleportation, Yuanli looked at this old house, an ordinary rural house, which was treated as half of her laboratory and half of her storage room. In the small courtyard, there are also our own research achievements. Yuanli came to his research results, but these seemingly ordinary flowers were the products of his long research. When he brought these flowers to his laboratory, the flowers that were originally placed on the experimental table changed as he waited. The flowers that were originally on the experimental platform have turned into liquid metal. 5 minutes, much better than expected. Yuanli showed a satisfied expression upon seeing the result. Magic metals that can grow are more suitable materials for magic research than ordinary metals. In the past, inventions made of metal that had been treated with magic not only required time for magical treatment, but also required time for shaping when using the tentacles behind them. But with this metal, there is no need for magical treatment and it has better magical adaptability than ordinary metal, and the molding time will be much shorter. It's time to use newly developed metals to make inventions, Yuanli began to think after the metal liquefied. But let's clean up the dust in this old house first. It's been a week since I last came here, and the house is covered in dust. However, cleaning up this old house was very simple, and Yuanli used a small spell to lift her hand. Alright, the house is clean. Yuanli nodded in satisfaction as she saw the spotless house. This time, just make the temperature-regulating ball that was designed last time. Yuanli took out the blueprint he had designed last time. If this invention hadn't been infused with magical energy, it would have been just an ordinary ball, Yuanli muttered to herself as she approached the nearly completed temperature control ball. Indeed, the speed is much faster than before. After completing the temperature control ball, Yuanli expressed her opinion on using new metals. After injecting her energy into the temperature-regulating ball, Yuanli found that the temperature in the room was much hotter than before. This invention is very successful. If the energy injected just now is ordinary metal, it will take some reaction time. But the newly invented metal is indeed ready in an instant. Yuanli expressed her opinion on the new metal. This new metal will be called Lingang in the future. After completing her invention, Yuanli looked at this old house and remembered the scene when she was just 5 years old more than 40 years ago. Has it been so long? If I were just like an ordinary sorcerer, I wouldn't be called old now. Yuanli walked out of the laboratory and went to the storage room. In the storage room, there were inventions he usually made, as well as some magical items. Seeing the mirror used to test the magic level, Yuanli took out the mirror. Starting the test, the mirror turned yellow after receiving the energy from Yuanli, which represents the highest test result of the mirror. This also means that Yuanli is more different from normal people than other sorcerers. The color of the mirror indicates the level of cultivation that the sorcerers have reached, and also indicates their distance from ordinary people. Seeing her test results, Yuanli thought to herself, was it indeed a mistake? Yuanli held on to the wrong test results caused by an instrument error, but even if it were an error, her aging would not be much faster than now, and her strength would not be the same as that of an ordinary person. Differences in Yuanli. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After testing her magic level, Yuanli came to another testing instrument. That is a book that injects magic into it, and it will test the age of one's body. The last test was at the age of 18, and this time he hopes there will be an increase. Before the previous test started, he thought there would be an increase in age, but now he feels it's impossible. After Yuanli placed her hands on the book and began injecting energy, the detection began. Is the result still the same, only 18 years old? After seeing the result, Yuanli showed a disappointed expression. After disappointment, Yuanli saw herself in the mirror with a strange expression on her face. I used to hide my appearance through talismans, but now I see that my original appearance seems unfamiliar. Perhaps this is his price. I am different from other sorcerers, this is something I have known since birth, Yuanli joked after accepting reality. There are two special cases among sorcerers who learn spells. One is because their ancestors were particularly skilled in spells, which allowed their descendants to use them from birth. The other is because their energy properties are different from those of ordinary sorcerers, which makes their owners better at different types of magic. And Yuanli is a sorcerer with these two different points, such an individual is called a hybrid. And Yuanli is not only a mixture, but also a special case of both types of Yuanli. Yuanli has 6 unique abilities. Instant movement, plunder, animalization, rapid recovery, high-speed movement, and flight. There are 3 types of special magic, one that allows him to be better at growing white magic, and also makes his original recovery ability faster and even regenerates his body. Another way is to make him better at black magic, and to allow him to ignore physical attacks while also being immune to a large number of magical attacks. These 2 special magical powers make Yuanli very skilled at any type of spell. The last one is a mixture of 2 magical powers, with advantages of both but lower effectiveness than those 2. Because there are 3 special types of magic, Yuanli has 3 different forms of magic, and usually Yuanli maintains a mixed form of magic. At critical moments, Yuanli will change her magical form. Having these 2 exceptions makes it much easier for Yuanli to master spells than other sorcerers, and as a hybrid, Yuanli's mind and body are much stronger than ordinary sorcerers. However, these 2 exceptions are not innate to him. The power of the hybrid will awaken when they are 5 years old, and the probability of survival is very low. There is a way for them to survive without any harm, but that method has turned Yuanli into a stone statue for over 40 years. Yuanli still remembers that it was his 5th birthday, when his parents were all by his side and they were still very young. Yuanli is their only child, originally supposed to have a happy 5th birthday, but that day was the most crucial day for Yuanli. Is the formation ready? Mom nervously asked Dad. The magic array is already the best we can do now. Just take out that bead and put it on, Dad said calmly, but his head was covered in sweat. Yuanli's parents are preparing a magic formation that can save their child. If successful, Yuanli can still survive. If unsuccessful, he will have to leave. Dad placed the bead in the center of the formation, and when the bead rose 2 meters above the ground, it stopped. Yuanli's body began to ache violently as she listened to those words. Mom and Dad, it hurts. Yuanli said in a weak voice, and her parents immediately cried when they saw it. Xiaoli, be good and prepare everything. Xiaoli can grow up safely, said her mother with a crying voice. Xiaoli, it will be over 40 years before we meet again, Dad said, placing Yuanli in the center of the formation. Yuanli knew why all of this was happening, and he tearfully said, when I wake up, my parents will give me a better birthday. Find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. As he finished speaking, Yuanli's body began to gradually turn into a stone statue, and the bead began to fall. After Yuanli had completely transformed into a stone statue, it integrated into her body. After completely transforming into a stone statue, Yuanli opened her eyes again and found herself in a library full of various magical books. In the center of the library, there was a set of seats and a book on the table. Around the seat are bookshelves filled with various magic books. During that time, Yuanli read those books and learned about various magical knowledge. During this process, Yuanli understood the reason for making this bead and the name, recorder, of the bead. But he was puzzled by the reason why the recorder was created. In the library inside the recorder, as the only book placed on the table in the center of the library, the book was an introduction about the recorder. The introduction stated that because the civilization of magic war was on the brink of destruction, the knowledge in this bead was to preserve the traces of civilization's existence. These words exceeded Yuanli's understanding, and Yuanli did not want to understand why. Because in Yuanli's understanding, the sorcerer had always been hidden among ordinary people, so there would be a magical civilization, and the text in the book was known to him. If it was really another civilization, why did they have the same text? Yuanli did not. He wanted to continue thinking about this issue, so he just read these magic books. These books contain a large number of different systems of magic, whether it is Eastern magic or Western magic, all in the recorder's library. In the library, Yuanli did not feel the passage of time, as if it was just a dream. When Yuanli woke up again, both of his parents had turned into elderly people, and their excited parents were shedding tears. Yuanli also spent her favorite birthday in the joy of her parents and herself. If only every day was as happy as that day, Yuanli thought to herself. Getting involved in a conspiracy. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After thinking of her happiest day, Yuanli revealed a smile that she had not noticed. After Yuanli turned back, he told his parents the information he saw in the recorder's library. His parents didn't know what the information was about, but they told him about the origin of the bead. That is a magical item collected by their great-grandfather, which he found in an underground palace. Yuanli understands that they don't know as much about the recorder as they do about themselves, and she doesn't want to figure out why the recorder was created. After that, he didn't manage the recorder's messages anymore. Yuanli used the knowledge she learned from the recorder to transform it into a talisman that could suppress his power. The talisman was always carried on him as a talisman to suppress his power. When there was no one around, Yuanli would occasionally return to the amulet to see the knowledge. On the mountain near this old house, a group of masked wizards are plotting to capture their most important experimental subjects. Is everything ready? He is the highest level wizard, said the leader of them to his subordinates. Everything is ready for Lord Zico. When he uses teleportation to leave, the magic circle we have prepared will keep him, and then poison him through Hedera. After that, he can be offered to the leader, said the masked subordinate. Make sure there is nothing wrong. If you fail, immediately use the mask's self-destructive ability to commit suicide, and never let him see our appearance, understand? Zico said in an emotionless tone. Understood, long live the leader, said the subordinates together. After finishing his work, Yuanli is ready to go back. Well, it's time to go back when the work is finished. She was also a magician. It was a mid-autumn festival. Yuanli was watching the moon on the mountain that day. Yuanli suddenly felt that a magician was approaching, and Yuanli immediately hid with the invisibility technique. He saw that she was surrounded by a group of magicians with masks, and a dagger was stabbed into her back. He tried to avoid the magicians who were chasing her, faking the illusion of death, and fled to the foot of the mountain. At that time, her expression was not nostalgic. Due to sympathy for her own kind, Yuanli saved her and took her to the cave he found on the mountain. He used magic to pull out the dagger and heal her injuries. Why save me? The red-haired girl asked Yuanli in a puzzled tone. I don't understand, maybe it's sympathy for the same kind, Yuanli said vaguely and used magic to heal her injuries. My name is Rexia Isaac. Do you think the name sounds good, Yuanli, said Rexia in a calm tone. Why are you talking about something? Yuanli was surprised that she knew her name. You forgot to take off the school communication card from your neck while saving me, Rexia spoke in a foolish tone. Do you know? Be careful next time, Yuanli said helplessly. Thank you for taking care of me. I will be leaving this afternoon. By the way, does my name sound good? Said Lysia in a puzzled tone. The name sounds nice, have a nice day, be careful on the way. Yuanli spoke like a shy child facing her parents' guests. So cute, thought Rexia, who was surrounded by her betrayed subordinates. 10 years have passed, time is really fast. It's time to go back myself. Yuanli used a spell to teleport to a house in the city, but during the teleportation, there was a violent vibration. No, someone seems to change my teleportation. Yuanli knew the reason and can't wait. Yuanli used her energy to create a magic sword, and after the teleportation ended, she was suspicious of the person who changed her teleportation. The teleportation is coming to an end. Get ready, Zico said to his subordinates. Yuanli's response strategy. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. As the teleportation was about to end, Yuanli felt that they were using some method to suppress his energy. After feeling the pressure they had caused, Yuanli felt as if her body was about to split apart. It's so uncomfortable, how could they actually try to catch me, such as pretending to fall to the ground and letting them relax their guard. Yuanli made the magic sword invisible and adjusted his body to create a feeling of falling. After the teleportation ended, Yuanli collapsed like a puppet. No, the highest level of level 6 cannot simply fall down. Inject Hetera quickly, Zico ordered with telepathy to his subordinates. Yuanli used her mind-reading skills to hear his telepathy, and upon learning that they had not been deceived, she immediately stood up to prepare for battle. After receiving the order, the subordinates quickly used magic to increase their strength and rushed forward. After seeing these, Yuanli immediately used her magic sword to cut off the needle in the hand of the person rushing forward. After the needle fell to the ground, where the spilled liquid dripped, the original land was corroded, and there was a large pit on the ground that kept emitting gas. "Let's catch him together," Zico shouted and rushed up with the others. Yuanli looked at them with a sword in his hand, using various high-tech magic props. Those weapons contain magical energy, but they are actually a combination of magic and technology weapons. Some shot at Yuanli, while others chopped at him. Although they weakened Yuanli with a magic and technology combination array, those magical energies still could not cause damage to Yuanli. The magical laser passing through the body of Yuanli evaporated the trees behind him. "Damn, level 6 doesn't work," the magicians shouted out in despair when they saw that magic attacks couldn't harm Yuanli. "It seems that they have been planning to catch me for a long time." If they guessed level 6 correctly, it was determined based on the results of the magic level test. They had already figured out my intelligence in advance. Yuanli thought to herself and used her magic sword to hit the ground, using her spell, Breaking Ground, to control the attack range of the spell and set the target as these masked people. The masked people fell down at the same time as feeling the spell. "Damn, level 6, you will definitely be captured by the leader." After speaking, these masked people pressed the button on the mask, and their bodies ignited magical flames. These flames only worked on the wearer of the mask, and soon their bodies became ashes. Surprisingly, in order not to leak the secret, she burned her own body, Yuanli exclaimed in shock upon seeing this action. After seeing this action, Yuanli understood that she was now being watched by a large group and that she was about to end her ordinary life. "First, go back and take the cash you left at home, and then go find a hiding place." After adjusting her emotions, Yuanli began to make coping strategies for her current situation. Now, she is being watched by an organization that can send such people, and she cannot go back to her home. Fortunately, she usually keeps cash at home. As a sorcerer, Yuanli has always prepared an emergency travel backpack that can be used for running after being discovered as a sorcerer. Every year, she puts a part of her cash in the backpack, which can support her activities for a period of time. Now I can only return to normal life by breaking down that organization, but now I have no information about them. Nowadays, magic organizations should not arrest themselves on a large scale. After all, in today's society, wizards are hidden in the crowd, and an organization composed of wizards should not want to cause too much commotion. From what they said before self-immolation, it can be analyzed that they were so fanatical in worshipping their leader. If they were to eliminate their leader, they would probably collapse. Now that Yuanli wants to end the dilemma she is facing as soon as possible, she can only believe that this simplest method will work. It's December now and it's almost the spring festival. "I hope we can have another year," Yuanli thought to herself. She always wants to leave hope for herself. Upon returning to her own home, Yuanli took out the emergency backpack she usually kept at home, counted the money inside, and closed the door and windows of the house. "I have just paid half a year's property and water and electricity fees myself, and I hope to come back before the Chinese New Year." Yuanli left her home where she had been living since she was 5 years old and began searching for her hiding place everywhere. In the end, Yuanli found a suitable hiding place, which was a semi-abandoned building. Apart from the bottom floor, someone had rented out a shop, while no one had rented out the upper floors. The upper floors were filled with dust due to being vacant for many years. Yuanli used magic to clean the part of the top floor away from the windows, and began to think about how to proceed with her next plan. "It's definitely not possible to have only one person now, so let's turn some soldiers out." Yuanli controlled the dust on the next floor to float up and condense into a ball in the air. Use the formation technique to turn soldiers into soldiers. The original dust turned into a group of armored soldiers, with black helmets covering their heads and black masks on their faces. These soldiers were not enough, and Yuanli controlled the stones on the lower floors to reach the top layer, using his weapon formation technique to transform a group of stone soldiers covered in rocks. Now turn these soldiers into portable small balls. Yuanli used magic to turn them into portable small balls and put them in her travel bag. Just having soldiers is not enough, let's use robots to command these soldiers. As for the materials, there are still some spirit steel seeds in the old house. Now bring the spirit steel seeds, magic props, and inventions from the old house in the village. It's really good to have a magic prop called the Qianquan bag to put them down. After Yuanli finished speaking, she teleported back to the village and checked through induction that there were no wizards around. She then returned to the old house and obtained all the magic props and inventions with the Qianquan bag. After returning to the stronghold and counting the Lingang seeds, it was discovered that they were not enough to manufacture robots. Yuanli then began to plan the next step. In a majestic office, Liu spoke discontentedly to her father. "Dad," he went to find the experimental subjects again. "Lisa, are there any traitors around you like 10 years ago?" Dad asked in a puzzled tone on the chair. "Although I understand the need to stop him, you wouldn't have come to me specifically because he was looking for an experimental subject before." Different reactions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After realizing her loss of composure, Liu silently sat on the sofa in the office. After seeing his daughter sit down, Edok also stood up. Usually, if you know about Dorek's actions, you will develop strategies to stop him and write a report to me. After sitting in a chair, Edok stood up and walked towards the sofa. The experimental subject he planned to catch this time is a very special one. After seeing her father sit on the sofa opposite her, Rexia calmly reported the difference to him. "According to the intelligence I just received, the experimental subject I caught this time seems to be the silver-haired, amber-eyed boy who saved you before," said Edok calmly, calming his daughter's emotions. "He has escaped the pursuit of the clones, and now he has left his sight. Dorek can no longer find him. The situation this time was caused by him saving me before," said Rexia to her father. "He saved you before for one reason, and another reason is because of this. After you saw him captured by Dorek, you came to find me. You haven't finished reading the report yet, have you?" Edok handed the report to his daughter. After seeing the intelligence message, Rexia sighed, a hybrid with 6 special abilities and 3 special magic powers, and it was also the highest level tested 6. This is the most special hybrid discovered so far. Having discovered such a hybrid, after you've stopped him from taking several actions recently. What Dorek really wants is a powerful clone, and he won't let go of such a precious experimental body. Edok told his daughter the main reason why Dorek wants to capture him. "Do you have any information about him now?" After confirming the current situation, Rexia asked her father. "Not now, he's hiding very well," said Edok to his anxious daughter. "So I'll go plan the next step." After learning that Yuanli was not there, Liu regained her usual composure and bid farewell to her father before leaving the office. "Boss, there's no problem, right?" After seeing Rexia calmly walk out, I waited for my subordinates outside to come up and confirm the situation. "Turna, I'm sorry for making you worry earlier." Seeing her subordinates, Turina followed behind and worried about herself, and Rielsea apologized to her. "Boss, why are you so outspoken? You usually help us a lot. When you see that you haven't finished reading the report, you run over. Even Frank, who keeps an eye on the computer every day, doesn't keep an eye on it anymore," Tashina complained to her boss, then jokingly said to her. "I can't believe he even saved you. Is he your Prince Charming, the boss? Unexpectedly eavesdropping on my conversation, I'll be accounting for you later." Let's go back and see how Frank's experiment is now. After finishing speaking, Rexaya opened the portal and walked in with Tezina. Miss Isaac, the experiment is still ongoing. We don't know the manufacturing method for these devices yet, and it will take time. After seeing Rexaya come in, Frank told her about his experimental progress. Let you study the manufacturing methods of the weapons used by the clones, and there are no results yet. How long do you really need? Tezina sarcastically said to Frank. The experiment is already the fastest. After all, some people are always by Miss Isaac's side and don't come to help me test the results. Otherwise, the experiment process can be faster, Frank mercilessly retorted to Tezina. You, a third-rate scientist, can't create anything on your own. The gun you're researching can even be used by those clones. It's okay if you can't create it yourself. It's my fault, and you don't blush, Tezina countered upon hearing these words. The guns in your mouth are a mixture of magic and technology, and the consequences of a mistake are very dangerous. You don't understand these devices, and it's wrong not to blush. Frank retaliated against Tezina's counterattack. Alright, stop arguing. They're all colleagues. Getting along well is important, isn't it? Lysia stopped her two subordinates from arguing. I'll spare you once for the sake of the boss's face this time, Tezina said proudly to Frank. Every day the boss yells, how do I feel like you've joined a gang? Frank said to Tezina. You. Tezina said to Frank. You have such a great relationship, Rexaya said to the two of them with a smile. Who has a good relationship with her/him, the two of them said in unison. When the two of them were about to argue again, Rexaya suddenly spoke up. The conversation I just had with my dad reminded me that you two were also involved in Dorek's plan and were treated as experimental subjects by him. I'm sorry, Lysia said sincerely to them after they didn't argue. Boss, why are you so outspoken? Boss, you have nothing to do with Dorek, and besides, you have also been involved in experiments. When you were a child, you still used people around you to catch you. Moreover, you have been blocking Dorek's plan, saving us from his hands. It is also you who pushed things onto yourself, which is too much, boss. Tashina expressed her opinion in an educational tone to Lysia. Miss Azek, you're like this again. Frank comforted. Surprisingly, what did you say? Then I'll cancel the hotel reservation. Suddenly, I thought of this and wanted to ask you to relax as compensation. I didn't expect you to think so much of me, so touched. Rexaya finished all her words with a dark tone. After listening to these words, the two people stood dumbfounded like stone statues. Boss, you're going too far, Tashina shouted loudly in shock after listening to these words. Alright, just a joke, get ready quickly. I've been working hard lately. I should also take a break. If there's a situation, I'll have to come back and work overtime, Rexaya said to them in an apologetic tone. That would require a higher overtime pay than the usual boss. Looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, Tashina complained and demanded from Lysia. Okay, Rexaya agreed and prepared her luggage with them. Failed, it's really something useless, Dorek said to his assistant without emotion. Lord Dorek, we still don't know where he's hiding. What do you think the next step should be? Asked Vic, the assistant beside him, carefully. Go find his hiding place and send out more stronger clones to capture him, just like the last time they were sent out, set it in their minds not to let them say my name, put on a mask, and if defeated, let them self-destruct and not let anyone discover them. Dorek said calmly. Yes, Lord Dorek. Assistant Vic replied and left. Leaving Vic as an assistant is just because he has no ulterior motives. This guy is the same no matter how many times he reads his mind, Dorek muttered to himself after using his mind-reading technique to test his assistant. My great goal cannot fail because these things are blocking the way. After completing the task assigned by Dorek, Vic came to his room. This room is very small, with only one bed and one table. Although there are many rooms in this villa, the owner looks down on this servant and only gives this small place as a room. After confirming that no one would come in, Vic used communication methods to send a message to his true owner. My lord, everything goes according to plan, and individual 2 still serves us according to plan. May the sacred plan be completed. Very good, we cannot let him detect any abnormalities right now. Under that influence, we cannot directly conduct experiments and use these stepping stones as our tools to achieve our goals. Yuanli's thoughts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After seeing that Lingang seed was not enough to manufacture robots, Yuanli thought of some of her inventions that could be used as robot components. Yuanli knows that manufacturing robots to command these soldiers is not a good strategy. But if you want to confront an organization that you don't know the details of, you need to make more preparations. Is it like this when I take off my talisman? How long will it take now to wear it again? For a long time. Yuanli fell silent as she looked at herself in the mirror on the top floor of this semi-abandoned building, in the toilet of her current hiding place. They knew the original appearance, as well as the way they wore amulets. Now, if they wanted to avoid them, they had to change their appearance. Thinking of this, Yuanli used magic to give herself a new look in her temporary room. Her silver-white hair turned black, her eyes also changed from amber to black, her originally delicate facial features became ordinary, and her height also became much shorter. Yuanli looked at her transformed self through the mirror in the toilet and nodded in satisfaction with the appearance of her hidden identity transformed by magic. Now it's time to tidy up your own room again. A room in the original building has been transformed into the current residence of Yuanli. The abandoned bed covered in dust found here was cleaned by magic and turned into his bed. The discarded seats found in the building were used as his desk. These improvements have made the originally low environment better. After completing these tasks, Yuanli left her hiding place and went to a nearby stationery store to buy paper and pens. She then had dinner nearby. These Yuanli can be completed with spells, but Yuanli wants to experience the life of ordinary people as much as possible in her own life. After returning to her hiding place, she arrived at the room, which was pitch black without any lights. Yuanli sat on a chair and took out paper and pen. Yuanli could also see clearly in the darkness. Yuanli began designing her first robot on paper. After designing the robot, Yuanli began to calculate the materials she needed. Materials can be transformed using elemental spells, but the key is that the quantity of spirit steel is not enough, and robots cannot be completely made from spirit steel. But it takes a lot of time to manufacture Lingang seeds, so it's better to design new ideas on your own. Lingang is made by imitating plants, and they will grow like plants. Plant growth absorbs nutrients, while spiritual steel growth absorbs magic. There is a certain amount of magic in any substance, and as long as it is not absorbed completely at once, the magic can be restored. But if the growth of spirit steel is not restricted, it will grow wildly and absorb all the magic. The land without magic will become a wasteland that cannot survive. So when manufacturing Lingang, it is necessary to add a restriction to prevent it from growing to a certain extent. In this way, after the growth of Lingang is completed, Lingang only needs a small amount of magic to survive. If the spirit steel seeds are loaded into the robot and the robot cultivates the growth of the spirit steel, absorb the magical attacks of those masked people as the magic of spiritual steel growth. After the robot absorbs enough capacity, it will have a stronger form, a robot reinforced with spirit steel. After coming up with a new idea, Yuanli began to manufacture her own robots. In the empty room where she was hiding, Yuanli used elemental magic to transform an experimental table. Then use magic to create the required materials, some of which, such as chips, require manual crafting. After thinking about it, Yuanli appeared with blue energy tentacles behind her, which were derived from Yuanli's plundering ability. They can emit lasers and can also be used in manufacturing. After the start of manufacturing, Yuanli's tentacles began working as tools. In the process of manufacturing robots, Yuanli thought of her dream of making robots before the age of 5. After spending more than 40 years among the recorders, I gained knowledge of making robots but no longer dreamed of making robots like I did before the age of 5. After graduation, Yuanli continued to operate a stationery store, which was closed for a period of time after her mother passed away. At that time, Yuanli had just finished 4 years of college life. After his mother passed away, some old customers asked him where his previous old store manager had gone. Yuanli told them the news of her mother's passing, and they all comforted Yuanli a few words. A student from a nearby school said in his shop that he admired Yuanli, but he didn't know what he had to envy. At that time, the student said that he had wanted to run his own store since he was young. But his family was relatively tight, so he didn't have the money to support himself in opening a store. However, he and his parents have always dreamed of opening a store since childhood, constantly saving money. He gave his New Year's money to his parents as start-up funds. Upon hearing this, Yuanli encouraged him to have his own store in the future. The reason why dreams are called dreams is because people who have dreams have not yet possessed the things they want to have or become the people they want to become. When they realize their dreams and become the people they want to be or have the things they want to have, they may not be as satisfied as they once thought. But what is important is that they give in the process of realizing their dreams, and those memories are the most precious. Yuanli herself didn't know when she saw or knew this sentence, but now she suddenly thought of it. Different preparations. You are listening at novelfull.audio. How can I think of this sentence? Yuanli complained. After a period of time, Yuanli completed the model of the robot and began testing its performance. After injecting magic, the robot took a few steps and suddenly emitted black smoke. This will be like this. After seeing it, Yuanli used her plundering ability to extract the magic injected into the robot, and the robot paused its function. After inspecting the robot, Yuanli found that it was due to the injection of magic that the spiritual steel began to grow. It seems that using one's own magic can lead to accidents for this type of robot. Yuanli began to find ways to give the robot new power, because the robot is a cultivation body of Ling steel. Therefore, injecting magic as the energy of the robot will lead to the growth of Ling steel. To complete the robot, another source of power is needed. Because the robot uses Ling Gang, in order to provide stable energy, Ling Gang should also be needed. After thinking of this, Yuanli looked at the remaining Ling steel seeds. If magic is used to accelerate growth, you can obtain spiritual steel now, but it may also lead to poor quality of spiritual steel. In the end, Yuanli decided to let Lingang end its normal growth and use it after a week. During this week, Yuanli decided to design a new power source. After Yuanli planted the spiritual steel into the soil, a dust soldier was responsible for cultivating the spiritual steel. Afterwards, Yuanli thought about how to create a power source that would not cause the robot to malfunction. After 7 days and 7 nights of design, Yuanli finally designed a power source. If it weren't for Yuanli being a sorcerer and designing a power source without sleeping or eating any food for 7 days and 7 nights, an ordinary person might have already collapsed. But Yuanli not only did not fall, but also looked no different from 7 days ago. Perhaps this is the privilege of Yuanli as the highest level 6th sorcerer. Lingang has been trained very well. Let's change back now. After seeing that Lingang had also been trained, Yuanli spoke to the nearby dust soldier. After receiving the command, the dust soldier turned back into a small round ball. After bringing Lingang to his temporary laboratory, Yuanli started manufacturing his own designed power source. After completing the power source, Yuanli placed it in her own robot. This power source made of spirit steel can be activated by injecting magic. Moreover, after startup, it will automatically absorb the magic of the air as power. If the calculation is correct, the maximum amount of magic injected will generate enough energy for the robot to move for a week. If the robot absorbs enough power, the spirit steel will complete its growth, and the robot will also become an evolutionary form. In that case, the required energy will also increase. If the calculation is correct, the maximum activity time of the robot will become 5 days. Start testing now. Yuanli injected magic into her robot, and the robot began to move. This time, the magic injected by Yuanli could make the robot move for an hour. After completing the test, the robot did not malfunction. Now is the time to further complete the robot. Yuanli took out her invented temperature-regulating ball, which is needed as an important component for this robot. The energy absorption devices invented in the past have been gradually added to robots. After the flight device, the robot has basically completed. Finally, to add the most important part, Yuanli took out her invention, the magic brain, which had a blue spherical shape. It will give robots good mobility like their minds. This robot is a mixture of technological products and magical items used by those masked humans. It will give those masked people a big surprise. After putting the robot into the Qianquan bag, Yuanli thought of those masked people calling her level 6. That is based on the color classification of the magic test results. The colors from level 6 to level 1 are yellow, purple, red, cyan, green, and white. The aging of the body varies among magicians of different levels. Warlocks at levels 1 to 3 will not experience a slower aging rate, but they will live longer and have much stronger resistance and strength than ordinary people. At the beginning of level 4, once the age of 18 is passed, aging will slow down, but not much. It's only 1.5, but later levels of aging will become even slower. So many sorcerers will not elevate their magic level to level 5. The masked men who captured Yuanli must have studied him for a long time, otherwise they wouldn't know his magic level. Now Yuanli must face those masked people. Boss, where are we going to the hotel? Tezina, can you stop calling me the boss? Alright Frank, I don't mind how you call me, we've known each other since before. On the private plane, Rexia mediated her two arguing subordinates and continued to speak. After all, we are all from the same hometown. We were friends when you didn't know my identity. It's not a public place now, so if you can just call me Lisa, that's all. That was before, now we are your subordinates. Okay, Lisa, let's call it what you want now. Tezina, you. Alright, you can also call me Lisa. I also want to be closer, Miss Lisa, you. After ending their subordinates' argument, the three of them discussed the recent events together. The experimental subject captured by Dorek this time was one who had saved you in the past, and you didn't know he was a hybrid mage at the time. Dorek has been failing recently and has lost many clones as a result. On the one hand, it was out of revenge against you, and on the other hand, it was out of the need to improve the quality of clones. Therefore, he was captured, but his strength was underestimated to the extent that all clones sent over failed. Frank calmly finished the known intelligence about this matter. Now, Lysia is very curious about the situation of Yuanli. Lisa, as a mixture of two special magical powers, we don't know the characteristics of his special magic. Do you feel his magic when you come into contact with him? No, I didn't feel much about him at that time. After saying these words, Lysia thought about whether he would use both types of magic in normal times, so she couldn't feel his magical characteristics. Rexia expressed her opinion to them. After hearing this opinion, it is indeed possible. If this is true, then he may have two different forms of magic. If that's the case, then he hasn't used the other two types of magic alone now. In that case, the probability of Dorek catching him is also much lower. I hope his situation is the same as this idea. After discussing the situation about Yuanli, Rexia, who had been anxious for a long time, felt much relieved due to the emergence of new statements. Where are we going on vacation this time, Lisa? Same as last time. Rexia gently replied to Tezina, and Tezina's expression froze instantly upon hearing it. Didn't you go to your hotel last time? Yeah, a 5-star hotel is the best place to relax. When you arrive, come to my room and I'll have something for you. 2 different gifts. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Bring this talisman with you, it will suppress your magic. In the living room of the hotel suite, Rexia sat on the sofa and placed 2 amulet necklaces in front of the 2 subordinates sitting next to her. Suppressing our magic, we still need to fight Dorek now. If we suppress our magic, wouldn't we lose to Dorek? Sorry for the mistake in the statement just now. It can suppress your magic concentration and keep you at level 4. After hearing these 2 words, happy smiles appeared on the faces of the 2 subordinates. Thank you, Miss Lisa, so you don't have to worry. Halfway through, Frank thought of her situation and immediately closed his mouth. It's nothing, I'm at level 6. I'm very clear about this, there's nothing to hide. After realizing it, Rexia gently revealed her situation. Lisa, one day you will also find a way. Miss Lisa. Alright, it's time for vacation now. What are you thinking so much about? Go relax now. After the meeting ended, they all returned to their rooms. The only one I have encountered so far is not my opponent's level 6, only Yuanli. I don't know what he would say when he encounters him. Lying in bed, Lysia thought about the appearance of Yuanli, with silver white hair and amber eyes, which looked very gentle. Now he is being captured by Dorek. If Dorek catches him and extracts his blood, then the clones will be much stronger than what they are currently facing. I hope to find him before Dorek. There is currently no intelligence about him. If there is any intelligence, it must be received as soon as possible. On the top floor of the semi-abandoned building, Yuanli was thinking about the intelligence she now knew. Use magic to turn these pieces of information into paper, and then use suction iron to attach them to the blackboard you have transformed. Yuanli used these pieces of intelligence to generate other pieces of information, such as differences in levels. They burned thoroughly, leaving nothing but white ashes, and there is no way to know who they are. From this perspective, they have a crazy admiration for that leader, but it is also possible that their behavior is because they are all specially created clones. Now Yuanli only has soldiers transformed using the technique of becoming soldiers, some magical items and previous inventions, and a robot in her hands. These cards are not enough for Yuanli to face the organization that is currently ignorant. Now, I don't even know how to collect intelligence from that organization. Yuanli looked at the blackboard where she was releasing information and revealed her current situation. Now, there is no intelligence, not even the purpose of the organization capturing Yuanli is known. After summarizing the situation, Yuanli came up with a new plan. In the plan, Yuanli will return home and be discovered by those masked people. Then use the clone technique to create a clone. From their last action, they can only perform teleportation interception, so they cannot distinguish between the clone and the main body. When the masked man discovers himself, have the clone prepare for teleportation like the previous time, and place self-made robots and soldiers on the clone, then let the clone disappear after the teleportation ends. Simultaneously release the robots and soldiers, and knock out the masked men during their confrontation, so that the minds of those masked men can be read to gather intelligence. After thinking about these things, Yuanli prepared to return to her own home and left behind information that she would return to the old house again. Then, before planning to hook them up, the robots need to be modified so that they can be carried around like soldiers. And let the robot carry the soldiers on the body as well. After modification, a storage device was implanted into the robot's arm to accommodate soldiers. The results of the plan. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. After preparing, Yuanli turned into a cat scouting near her original home. Sure enough, I found some suspicious people near my home. After sensing that they were the same type of person as the last masked person, Yuanli began to check the deployment of the nearby masked people and found that they were much stronger than the last masked person. However, solving them was still very simple for Yuanli. After several days of reconnaissance nearby, Yuanli began to take action. At the same time, a clone that turned into a cat was dispatched near their own home, and a clone that turned into a bird was dispatched near the old house. Yuanli first used teleportation to return to her home and pretended to be looking for money everywhere. At the same time, let the clone who turned into a cat scout around. After the clone received news that they were reporting their whereabouts, Yuanli deliberately revealed her plan in her heart. Now, I have to go back to my old house again, I've spent all the money. After receiving the report from the clone that they informed the leader of the news, Yuanli used teleportation to leave home. Sir, those clones have received intelligence that the experimental subjects have appeared in his original home. What, he appeared? Yes sir, I found him changing money at his original residence and he even said he would go back to the old house to change money. He said it with his mouth, no, it was silently said in my heart. Let the standby clone go and capture him, when he returns to the old house he mentioned. Use a stronger device than last time to weaken his strength, and after weakening, use a confinement device to imprison him and inject Hydra into him. I understand, sir. After receiving the order from Dorek, Vic immediately went to order the dispatched clones to arrest him. After Yuanli's clone, who turned into a bird, discovered the actions of the masked man near the old house, Yuanli immediately ordered his clone to scout nearby. These masked men have prepared more equipment this time, and their level has also been much higher than last time. After receiving these pieces of intelligence, Yuanli prepared and teleported back to the old house. After receiving the experimental body and returning to its destination, the clones began preparing to capture it. Lord Zico, everything is ready. We must not fail this time. Another person named Zico spoke out his purpose to his subordinates, stating that the failure of low-level Zico would not be repeated for high-level Zico. After returning to the old house, Yuanli pretended to be looking for money and kept reciting in her heart, wherever the money is, it has been eaten for several days. Yuanli put the money he had placed in the old house on him and had his clone leave through teleportation. Lord Zico, he has appeared. Prepare to arrest him immediately after he lands. After the teleportation ended, the experimental body that had originally appeared suddenly disappeared upon landing. There is only a black cube left underground. What? After uttering this sentence in disbelief. Suddenly, the cube transformed into a robot and released a large number of soldiers who were covered in armor and didn't look like humans from their arms. Destroy these things. After realizing that he had been tricked, Zico angrily ordered these clones to destroy these things that dared to deceive the leader. After the battle, the soldiers engaged in battle with the clone soldiers by spraying electric beads from their mouths and releasing lightning from their fingers. The most dangerous thing is that robot, because the light directed at it is absorbed and does not cause any harm at all. After the battle, both the non-human soldiers and clones suffered losses, but the robots did not suffer any harm. Yuanli, who watched these from a distance, was very satisfied with the combat ability of the robots. At the same time, he watched as someone's equipment planned to seize those devices. Surprisingly, the robot's performance was unsatisfactory. So let's use his special skills to capture them. Yuanli used telepathy to give orders to the robots. Robots, freeze these people up. After receiving the command, the robot uses a temperature-regulating ball integrated into the body to freeze the masked person. Damn it, I can't even know the intelligence. After learning that the robot intended to freeze them, he immediately touched the switch with his hand, but before he could touch the switch, his body turned into ice. A good trophy. After seeing these masked people turned into ice, Yuanli inspected all the devices they brought inside and outside. After removing the tracking devices from their bodies, Yuanli packed them into the Qinquan bag. Now take a look at your brains. Yuanli touched these ice blocks with her hands to read the thoughts of these people. Turns out they were clones, just like that guess. Is that all they have in their minds? They only have orders from their creators, and they don't even know what that creator looks like. But they have the location of their factory, which is the only useful information. They actually use the term leader to refer to the creator, and determine the leader based on the leader's magic. They absolutely obey the leader. After reading the information of these clones, Yuanli decided to temporarily keep them and replaced the frozen ice with her own mysterious ice. This ice will not melt and will only disappear when released, making it the most suitable way to freeze these clones. Let them self-destruct first through their orders. Another failure. What about the whereabouts of the clones? Just like last time, it has completely self-destructed. Call over the most advanced clones who have been engaged in combat, and this time he must pay the price. After hearing the report, angry Dorek crushed the cup in his hand. The most advanced clones are created by fusing genes extracted from those experimental subjects. Because multiple different genes are used, they require a significant amount of time for cultivation. To be considered as the most advanced clones, they not only need to undergo various training for a long time, but also need to receive high praise from Dorek after completing difficult tasks in order to be considered as a member of the most advanced clones. Zhaoshuyuan.com. After being trained with a large amount of magical resources, these clones have acquired outstanding magical abilities, and most importantly, because they have been engaged in combat, they all understand a lot of Dorek's intelligence. Because the purpose of grabbing the experimental subjects is to manufacture them, this is the first time that they have been mobilized by the experimental subjects. Sending them indicates that Dorek has become completely angry, and now Yuanli is no longer just an experimental subject. There's still no news about him now. After finishing her vacation, lying in bed, Rexia was thinking about Yuanli's matter and rolling around in bed due to worries. If only someone could contact me now and give me a message. Suddenly, the communicator sent a message, and upon opening the communicator, they unexpectedly saw the message from Yuanli, whom they had been longing for. Something's wrong, he seems to have planned this action. After reading the report, Lysia noticed an obvious mistake in this report. I used to want to see him when I said his name, but when I found out he had an old house, I stayed near his old house for a long time and didn't see him. At that time, he even sent many clones that turned into birds to look at him. After feeling that those birds were not real birds but his clones, I thought to myself several times that he didn't come, and then I only saw him after explaining his purpose to his clones. This time, it was so simple that Dorek encountered him again. I can't believe it. And Dorek even sent out the highest level clones, they are not easy to deal with. After thinking about these things, Rexia decided to go alone and inspect the places where he had traces. If he brought more people, he probably would still hide.